Oh lordy, I've said it before and I'll say it again. During colder times, leather seats are no friend to the lower back. Hello darlings, and welcome to, what day is it? Is it Wednesday or Thursday? It's Wednesday, isn't it? Yes. What's that? I didn't do anything. I didn't turn you on, you silly thing. Turn yourself.
Bluetooth menu on your phone and
What?
search for devices.
Be quiet.
Power off.
Bloody hellfire. I'm always being interrupted. My life is one long interruption. Oh God, I'm a bit low on fuel. Right, note to self, get some fuel tonight. Welcome to Wednesday's Daily Diary. Right, I have to report I've got nothing to tell you today. I've got no updates on anything. Nothing has happened, and I've done nothing of note. I dived headfirst into the edit suite as soon as I got up, and pretty much haven't been out of it. All I've been doing all day is editing, apart from making lunch and putting the bin out. And by being the first to put my bin out, I maintained my status as the main local binfluencer. I'm quite proud of that. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Look at the moon in the twilight. Yeah, so nothing to report. So I thought that I would turn this drive to work in the dark over to Mr. Boaty's Candid Q&A. Obviously, I asked for questions. I said nothing is off limits, and I will answer every question. Right, I should have added within reason, but I didn't. So, I mean, there are some insanely daft ones that I'll pop in. Now, I started this last night in, so if you want to know all of the details on my divorce, when it happened, why it happened, all of the dirty little secrets, you need to go back to Tuesday's video, because that was answered in the drive to work. Right, so on to today's questions. Well, I'm going to answer two that follow on from another one of the questions I answered in the last video, which was asking about, so we had the one about the divorce, yeah, and then somebody asked about would I consider marriage again, or am I just looking for a girlfriend stroke partner. So we dealt with all of that, but I've got two questions that have come in subsequently that kind of lead on from those, so I'm kind of going a bit out of chronological order, but it kind of makes sense. So I got a question from insert name here. I can't remember. I can barely remember the questions. Like, obviously I'm not looking at anything, I'm driving. Well, I am looking at something, I'm looking at the road. I can't remember who sent it in, but I will put it up on screen in the edit. And they asked, Boaty, old son, when are you going to find a wife? Well, I think the question is more, where am I going to find a wife? I mean, it's a lovely idea, as I discussed in the last video. But, I mean, realistically, there are some hurdles to me finding a wife or girlfriend or partner or anything of that nature. Let's go through some of the hurdles, some of which have been added very recently. Well, I'm old. That's a starter for 10, isn't it? My looks, such as they were, are a very distant memory. I mean, let's face it, I've got a bloody face like a dropped pie. Bits of it are missing, bits have been added to it that I would prefer not to be there, and maybe they won't be there forever. Oh, that's rather lovely, isn't it? Look at that. Look at that. So there's my appearance, which is enough to put 95% of women off. And then for the 5% that are remaining, let's look at my personality. I am entirely devoid of charm, humour, wit or charisma. They are just words in the dictionary. I am selfish, arrogant, self-centered, narcissistic, arrogant again, selfish again. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Boring, opinionated, boorish, occasionally offensive. Oh God, hideously indiscreet. I talk about everything on camera. So what else is there to factor into the mix? I work unsociable hours. You know, I've managed late in life to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, and having been a relatively successful human being, I'm ending up a complete failure at life. I'm skint, and I'm about to be homeless. So in answer to, I think that's kind of answered the question. When are you going to find a wife, Boaty, old son? When I can find a woman who is overwhelmingly attracted to an old, skint, homeless, fat, often slightly drunk, hideously offensive. Let's face it, the only way I'd get a woman would be if I drugged her or hypnotised her or something. But then there was another question asking that if I were to get married or live in sin or anything of that nature, what type of woman do or would I go for? Now that is quite interesting, because I always had a very definite type. I have always gone for slender brunettes. Now, there are other things that come into the mix, of course, but in terms of aesthetics, appearance, I've always gone for slender brunettes. And there's a possibility that in theory, because let's face it, my love life is entirely theoretical, in theory that might still be the case. I'll give you an example. One of my more recent romantic interests, their daughter watched my wedding video on YouTube and said, "Mum, you look just like his ex-wife." So there you go, maybe I still have got a type, but at my age, other things matter a lot more. It goes on to what I was talking about in the last video. The older you get, different things matter when it comes to a relationship, you know, another half, that kind of thing. And I guess that looks with a lot of people tend to fall away. Personality, compatibility, they all become more important. So what would I be looking for? Well, you know, you can do all of this silly fatuous flip comments a pulse, but that's not true in my case. Intelligence. There has to be an intellectual connection in some way, shape or form, and I'm sure that's true for most of us. I remember my old man telling me when I was a young buck. Oh, is there a car coming? Yes, there is. What an odd place and inconvenient place to stop, Mr. DPD driver. I remember my old man telling me that, oh, and another one. I will get this sentence out in the fullness of time. Yes, 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 yes. You need to have something to talk about when you eventually fall out of bed. And that's kind of true when you're young, but, you know, when you get to my age, and the hurly-burly of the chaise longue is not a thrice daily occurrence, then, you know, the connection outside of beastliness becomes even more important, doesn't it? So, you know, all of the normal things apply. Somebody nice, somebody with a sense of humour, you know, no horrendous personality defects, because let's face it, I've got enough for both of us. Humour is essential. Humour's absolutely essential. I define myself by my humour, and I view life through a very humorous lens, and they would need to be able to share that. They'd need to have a sense of silliness, a sense of fun, but also, you know, to have a bit of something about them. There'd need to be some compatibility in terms of lifestyle, wouldn't there? And, you know, I don't have a television, so I couldn't be with somebody whose idea of a fun evening was to sit on the settee gazing at the goggle box. Yeah, no, not me. Not me. I mean, they can do it, just don't expect me to join in. And somebody who's going to join in with the things that I enjoy doing, just as I would join in with the things that they enjoy doing, unless it's sitting watching television. So, you know, somebody who would get a kick out of sodding up in the motorhome, going for a walk somewhere beautiful, doing road trips, staying at the Great Hotel in Llandudno and breaking wind violently on the balcony. Yeah, somebody who just fitted in with all of that, and ideally who are available on Mondays, because that's my free day. Yeah, so and somebody who had a sense of fun, who wasn't afraid to let their hair down and just have a bloody good laugh. Is that you? Apply in the comments. I won't hold my breath. There you go. I hope that's a reasonable answer to that one, and we will do one more, and then I'll do another one on the way home. Right, so the next one I'm going to do is, now I'm going to have to paraphrase the question because I'm not reading it off a screen or a teleprompter. Amazingly, Madame Fanny is not fitted with a teleprompter. Can you believe it? Peugeot, what were you thinking of? I'm decidedly low on fuel. My range is just 66 miles. So we'd better bang some go-go juice in. Right, next question I'm going to answer is, basically it was, how did you come to work at the restaurant and how long have you been there? I think that was the question. And that question was from insert name here. It'll come up on the screen as if by magic. The shopkeeper arrived. Right, okay. Now, I have answered this really very fully on a video, but I think that video might be channel members only. I think it might be, so it won't hurt to answer it again. If you've heard this before, apologies. Otherwise, right. So the story of the restaurant. Okay, so it's post-divorce, a year or so after the divorce. I was working full-time at Sainsbury's. Everything was going all right. I was courting Boo. Courting, there's an old-fashioned word for you. But it's one I like, and it applies to what we were doing. We were very much courting. So I was working all the hours that God sends. I was working 100-hour weeks, you know, just to pay the bills. I was running UK Singles Network, and I was courting Boo. And I had an accident at work. It was Easter weekend. It was the Saturday, and I was delivering online shopping, and I was delivering to all of the holiday lets in the wilds of the Peak District. I was on a long shift. I was on, I think it was a 12-hour shift, and towards the beginning of the shift, I had an accident. I fell on a customer's property. There was a broken patio, and I fell over and I hurt myself, and I rang the store, and they said they couldn't get anybody to cover me or to get the van back or anything. Crack on. And I kind of did. I kind of cracked on. I couldn't walk. Fortunately, the vans that we drove were automatic, and it did occur to me that being Easter Saturday, everywhere was going to be shut on Easter Sunday. So all of these people in remote holiday lets, if they didn't get their shopping, they were stuffed, basically. So I did about 80% of my shift, managed to drive, called the customers, explained the situation, said, you know, would you mind coming and getting your shopping off the van, because I can't walk. Got back to the store. They eventually sent somebody out, but I think I did about 9 hours. Got back to the store. They thought I was swinging the lead, and the duty manager was waiting for me and had been instructed to inspect me, because they thought I was taking the piss. And he had a look at me, and he turned green, and he said, for Christ's sake, get to hospital. And I didn't go to hospital because it was a Saturday night. By this time it was late on a Saturday night, and I'd have been there all night. Didn't fancy that. And also I had my first date with Boo. We'd been online courting, and we had our first actual date on the Sunday. It was UK Singles Community Meetup, and it was a bowling meetup in Nottingham, and that was going to be the first time I met Boo in real life. Well, I wasn't bloody missing that, was I? Not happening. So I somehow I managed to get myself to the meetup. I met Boo at Nottingham train station. All I can remember is being in tears with the pain of trying to walk. And amazingly, we went bowling. God knows how I did it. I was driving I had an automatic then. Well, one of my cars was an automatic. I had a matching pair of his and hers highly powered Jaguars, both S-types. I had a 3-litre manual and the 2.5-litre automatic, and obviously I was driving the auto. So we did the date. I drove her home to Leicester, got myself back to Windy Bum, and that was the Sunday. And on the Monday, the artist formerly known as Mrs. Boaty came and took me to hospital. Now, you know, at the time she was a very senior figure in the NHS. She pulled some strings. I got seen straight away. I'd broken my feet and my legs and all of that kind of thing. I I'd done a lot of nerve and soft tissue damage by walking on them. And so I had a long time off work. I need to cut this story short, don't I? I had a long time off work, and when I went back to work, I did a return to work interview, and they said, you're not fit to do anything. You certainly can't do your job. You can't go and work in the store. You got a 46-hour contract. We need to figure out what the bloody hell we're going to do with you. So they said, go and have a fag. We'll have a think about it. Come back, we'll sort it out. So I went and had a fag, went back, and they took me into a disciplinary and sacked me for gross misconduct on a trumped up thing. They knew it was trumped up. Well, they sacked me for not keeping correct temperature record. Well, for not keeping any temperature records for the fridge. And their evidence was all of the temperature records for the fridge, which were completely correctly filled out. So, in other words, we're going to sack you, and we'll deal with any fallout. It's easier than, keeping you on this sick for Christ knows how long or whatever. So that was that. By a stroke of incredible good luck, 3 days before they did it, the law changed, and you didn't have to pay to go to an industrial tribunal to bring suit. If your case was deemed to be just, you no longer had to pay. So they sacked me, I sued them, and the doings went on for quite a long time. In the meantime, I ran out of money, didn't I? So I thought, well, what am I going to do? And when I was a student, I delivered pizzas, and it used to be really good. You used to earn good money. You got a free meal at the end of the night. So I thought, I'll do that. I can do that. By that stage, I'm kind of walking okay-ish. I was too weak to do the heavy lifting that I used to do at Saint Bob's, but I thought I could handle delivering bloody takeaways. So Boo lent me some money because I was utterly skint. Boo lent me a few £100. I bought Cedric the Racing Micra, a little Nissan Micra. I think it was £250. And I looked for a job delivering takeaways. Well, guess where I found one? That's right, you can guess. Kathmandu Gurkha. And I started doing a few nights there, and then I started doing a few more nights because I wanted to work every night. And because I'm fascinated by food, I'm a foodie, I'm a keen amateur cook. Rather than just sit in my car waiting for the orders, I hung around at the kitchen doorway because show me a professional kitchen. I want to see what's going on in there, don't I? I used to run restaurants. I used to run a chain of pub restaurants. So, of course, I'm keen to see what's going on, aren't I? So I just used to look in through the door, and gradually I just, without being asked or invited, I just started edging into the kitchen and doing stuff without so much as a by your leave. And this is at Clay Cross, not at the restaurant I am now. And it kind of just developed, and I ended up working every night, and when I wasn't delivering, I ended up I would work in the kitchen, and they became family, and they adopted me. I kind of adopted them. I started doing all of their marketing, taking care of the PR, anything to do with customers, anything to do with speaking English. Started doing some of their legal stuff, and as I say, we kind of became family. And Vishnu, the big boss, and we became like brothers. And they were fascinated by my history, the fact that somebody who used to be successful no longer was. And they found that really interesting. But also, you know, I've got a fair amount of business knowledge and acumen, which I was perfectly willing to share with them. And then I started working between the two restaurants, and then I ended up at where I am now at Ripley, kind of pretty much full all the time. Stopped working at Claycross, became really close family with Ram and Gopi as it was then. Gopi since left, and things just progressed. That, you know, they asked me to do more front of house stuff, and just roll forward to where we are now. So I've been with them for 9 years. Their family. We run the restaurant as a family restaurant. I have a job title, doesn't matter. We can all do pretty much everything. So I can wait on, I can run the bar, I can run the pass, I can cook all the dishes on the menu at a push. I just can't do it very quickly or with a degree of continuity. So yeah, that's it. That brings us to where we are today. And would I quit? I often ask myself this. If I suddenly became incredibly successful at YouTube, would I sod off? I don't know. I might, I suppose, but I kind of don't think I would. I would miss them all too much. So, yeah. Oh, greetings, Honourable Bridge. Oh, I almost forgot. So there you go. That brings us pretty much up to the present day. That's where we are. They're my family. I'm invested in them. I'm invested in the business, and we've got plans going forward as well. Oh Christ, look at this. Oh, I forgot there are traffic lights here, aren't there? Yeah, there are roadworks. Balls. Well, we're going to be sitting here for a few minutes. I forgot. If I'd have remembered, I'd have turned right back there and done a bit of a workaround. Bugger it. Never mind. Can't be helped now. Anyway, there you go. I will leave that one at that, and if I remember, I will. Yeah, sod it. Let's do another one on the way home, shall we? Yeah. Right. See you on the other side. Oh, it's getting chilly. It's getting chilly. Oh, dear me. Right then, darlings. A couple of quick Q&As. The ones that I can remember off the top of my head. And then we'll do more of these tomorrow. I might even roll them all into the same episode, or I might not. Haven't decided yet. Right. Do I like / eat black pudding? Oh, what happened there? Don't know what happened there. I have put fuel in, by the way, if you were wondering. Do I like / eat black pudding? Amazingly, that came up last night in the restaurant. No, I don't. I don't like it, and therefore I don't eat it. Another one. Were you, stroke are you, a reverend? I noticed your business email address, which is thereverendboaty at gmail.com. Quick and easy answer to that one. Yes, I am. For my sins, yep, believe it or not, I am an ordained reverend minister of the church. Baptisms, bar mitzvahs, all performed at discount rates for channel members. No, I really am. I really am a member of the clergy. It always takes people by surprise, that one. It always takes people by surprise, and you can understand why. And the last one for tonight: what has been your favourite car that you have owned? Now, this kind of came up on the live stream last night, but somebody asked me what the best car I ever owned was, and my answer to that was an original first generation Lexus LS400, and I thought, well, I've got to say that was the best car I ever owned, because in its period it was the best car in the world. It was better than any other car in the world. It just was. That's what Lexus was designed to be. Luxury export to the United States, if you were wondering how the name came about. Branch of Toyota, of course. But they set out to make the best car in the world, and they succeeded. So that had to be my answer. But my favourite car, that is really difficult. The favourite car that I have owned. And I think if I had to pick just one, it would be a Bristol Beaufighter. And if you're not familiar with the Bristol Beaufighter, it's basically a Bristol 412, but with a Targa roof and a turbocharger banged onto the engine. Now, the engine in a 412 is a 6.3 V8. It's actually a Chrysler 6.3 V8. Same engine as fitted to the Series 1 Jensen Interceptor, although of course it was on the Interceptor, it was taken out to 7.2 in the second and third series because they had to detune it to comply with American emissions. The difference between Jensen and Bristol is that Jensen just shoved the Chrysler straight into the Interceptor. Bristol stripped them apart, rebuilt them to their own standards before putting them in the 412. And in the Beaufighter, you got a turbo in there as well. What did I love about it? The fact that it was the ultimate gentleman's carriage, ridiculously quick and incredibly rare and elite. And others that came into the mix for consideration were, well, the other one that sprang immediately to mind was Series 3 Lamborghini Espada. That thing was amazing, absolutely amazing. When I stood next to it, the roof line was below my belt line, so low. Espada means sword, by the way, if you didn't know. Right, that is it for now, and I will just pop back in a little while to say goodnight to you. And here we are at home. So I'm going to roll today and tomorrow's video into one and put them out on Friday. So I won't say any massive good nights or thank you for watching or all of that, because I'll be straight back with you after this Zoom blur. See you tomorrow. Here we are, darlings, back again for another drive in the dark, although half an hour earlier today, so not quite as dark. And I'm going to do one more in this session. I will do more in videos to come, but one more in this video, question and answer thingy, and this comes from the lovely Shelley. And the question is, and I am reading this for once. Hi Boaty, I have a question. We know you were a professional cyclist until your 20s. You were a professional singer. You worked at Sainsbury's. You lived with Boo and Chinese Madam. You married Maggie, and you've lived in Windybum for about 10 years. You often say that you've lived in Ukraine, France, Italy, and even Africa, yet you're only 54. So when did you live in 4 different countries? What's the timeline? Now, I thought that was a very interesting question, because there's an inference behind it saying, right, you bullshitting swine, talk your way out of this one. I know for a fact, somebody even put it in a comment on a recent video, that how did they put it? They said that I talk shit, but it doesn't matter because I'm funny and a nice bloke, something like that. So I know for a fact that, go on, yeah, okay, go on, go. So I know that when I say some things about my previous life, some people, maybe a lot of people, hello sheepies, will take it with a pinch of salt, to say the very least, and I don't blame them. I do myself. This is true. Sometimes I look back at photographs or whatnot, and I think, good God, that really happened. Or I'll catch up with somebody that I haven't seen for years and years and years, and I'll think, good God, that they'll mention something. I'll say, oh, that happened. I assumed I made that up. But no, I don't make anything up. I've just had a reasonably interesting and varied life, and I am going to try and answer that question. Now, it won't be easy, because that part of my life, well, a lot of my life, took part in the days before social media and digital photography. So there's a lot I kind of don't have records of, and, you know, reminders of dates and years and things like that. And I'm sure, like most people, purely using my mind alone, I struggle to put things in the correct chronological order. I'll know that they happened, but I can't remember exactly when. There was, oh, hello. A while ago, somebody expressed interest in writing a book about me, and didn't want to have that. Didn't fancy that, because I thought, if anybody's going to write a book, it'll be me. I have written in the past, so I suppose technically I could call myself an author. I've had a couple of things published, if that, you know, well, yeah, it does count, doesn't it? That makes you an author. If you write something and it's published and people pay money for it, that makes you an author. So there you go. I thought, if anybody's going to do it, it's me. And I started writing some notes, and I struggled to get everything in the exact correct order. And you think, well, I know I did that, but when did I do that? And what did I do? These days, it's easy, because you've got social media to remind you, Facebook memories, that kind of thing. But I'm going to give it a bloody good go. So the question was asking about where I've lived, and it mentioned significant relationships, women that I've lived with. So I'm going to try and do a timeline of where I've lived and who I've lived with. Wish me bloody luck, because this is not going to be easy. Okay, right, so where to begin? Okay, I wasn't a pro cyclist until my 20s. I retired when I was 19, not through choice, but through injury. So, let's try and do this properly. Timeline. So I started cycling, you know, when I could, as soon as I could walk. No choice, not my choice, my father's choice. And yeah, I had absolutely no say in the matter. So as far as I'm concerned, I've been riding a bike as long as I've been alive. Well, you know, I started riding a bike as early as I can remember. I don't even remember starting to ride a bike. It was just there, always there. And I was training by the age of about 7. I was national champion. I think my first nationals, I think I won when I was 11. Came up through the ESCA system at the same time as Stuart Dangerfield, Chris Boardman, those kind of people. So timeline, 1987, age 16, I went to the continent. So here we can tick off our first 3 countries, if we're not including Wales and England, which is where I lived as a child. So 87 to 89 was France, Italy and Belgium. And there are no women to mention in that time, because I had nothing to do with women when I was an athlete. You know the old cliche, women weaken legs. We used to believe it back in those days. And I was very shy and very naive, and I was very late to the whole business of women and girls and girlfriends and the hurly-burly of the chaise longue. I think I was the oldest virgin in the UK. Kind of made up for it a bit afterwards. Yeah, got quite keen on that kind of thing. So anyway, so that takes us up to 89. I retired at the end of 1989 from cycling. My last event was the Birmingham Midshires International at the King's Gardens in Southport, and that was at the end of September 1989, and that was it. That was the end of my competitive era on a bike. I did throw a leg back over the saddle, but not in anger, not competitively. And again, not through choice, through injury. Grievous, really, because I didn't have a childhood, I didn't have an adolescence, I was never a teenager, I was an athlete. I sacrificed everything for my career, and my career was robbed from me just when everything was starting to really pay dividends. I was very bitter about that for a lot of years. So any ex-athlete will tell you that it's very difficult to replace your sport, because you need to obsess over something, and nothing else will give you the same highs that training and competition and success gives you, which is why so many former athletes end up turning to drugs, drink, and sadly it often ends up in suicide. I mean, we've just had Ricky Hatton, of course, haven't we? And it's a very real thing. Now, back in my day, I don't know the figures now, in my day the average life expectancy of a cyclist was 54 years. Don't know what it is now. So it's all a very real thing. So I obsessed over academics. I threw myself into study for well, it would have been 3 years, wouldn't it? Would have been 3 years. Threw myself into study, and then after study I threw myself into business. So through my 20s I didn't have a day off. I worked 7 days a week, 365 days of the year, right through my 20s, and I didn't leave the UK. Now, in terms of jobs, I ran a very small chain, 4 pub restaurants, and then by accident I went into the motor trade. I've made videos about these things where I've gone into full details. Towards the end of my 20s, well no, in my mid-20s, I accidentally became a pro vocalist. Again, talked about this in videos. Happened by accident, wasn't planned. A mate dragged me to some karaoke's. I thought they were fun. Started hanging out to karaoke's a bit. One of my local karaoke's did a host for a national talent competition. I won, got through to the finals, won the finals. Blah blah blah, picked up by an agent, all of that kind of thing, and that led into launching Grand Central Promotions, which was a corporate promotions company. We provided the entertainment for big corporate stuff, so you know they could have a full evening, cabaret, disco, comedy, whatever, and we provided the whole kit and caboodle. That did very well, and we ended up buying out Ghost and Nightingales, which was one of the biggest entertainment agencies in the UK at that time. So that all kind of run concurrently in my mid to late 20s. I'm still running the car dealership and managing to do all of that as well. So it was obviously a busy time. Now, in terms of women through my 20s, right, there was Donna. She was my first fiance. She was my first girlfriend, and because you're a kid, your first girlfriend, your first love, you think you've got to get married, don't you? So yeah, I'm only going to do serious relationships. I'm not going to do, you know, all of the ones that come in between the more serious ones. I'm only going to do the ones that I lived with. So I lived with Donna because we ran the pubs together. Then there was Sasha. I was with Sasha in the fairly early days of the car dealership. Again, we were engaged. Again, we lived together. We're still friends to this day. And yeah, I was with Sasha when I launched Grand Central, when I became a singer, all of that, and yeah, and we were engaged, and that, yeah, so that was that. And as I say, still friends to this day. Last time I saw Sash was my mother's funeral, but we're Facebook friends, so you know, keep up on there, and we chat occasionally. And that was my 20s. That was my 20s. I didn't leave the UK. To the best of my recollection, from the age of 19 to the age of 30, I didn't leave the UK. Right, so into my 30s. So in my early 30s, I left the car showrooms, and Grand Central was doing nicely, Ghost and Nightingales was doing nicely, and I was able to effectively work remotely, which meant that I could bugger off and do some things, have some fun. It all started just before my 30th birthday, so we are now in January of 2001, and you all know the story. I got chatting online with an American lady who owned a couple of law firms in Chicago. She said, "What are you doing for your birthday?" I said, "Nothing really, just another day." She said, "Come over here, I'll buy you lunch." So I did. Couple of days notice, or was it 1 day's notice? Flew out to Chicago. She picked me up in a, I can't remember what car it was. It was brand new and it was convertible. Despite January in Chicago is pretty cold, darlings. 6 feet of snow on the sidewalk. But we had the roof down going back from O'Hare Airport, and we went to lunch, which was nice. We got on quite well, and I kind of didn't go home. So that's 2001 America. 2002 was Ukraine. Oh, and so it's supposed to be doing the women as well, aren't I? So obviously America was Robin. 2002 Ukraine, and you found me in Kyiv, and I have got photos of, not many, but I've got photos of these things. So yeah, I was in Kyiv. You all know the stories. I was living with a girl called Lena, who was beautiful, and yeah, had some adventures, most of which you know about. So that was 2002. Tick off another country. So what have we done so far? We've done Wales, England, France, Italy, Belgium, America, and Ukraine. 2003, and we are into Lisa, one of the great loves of my life. Oh, Lisa, my goodness gracious me. Another fiance. The closest I got to getting married, because we'd bought everything, rings, dress, wedding was booked, and it's another country to tick off the list, and this one was Cyprus, because yeah, we were out there, moved between there and Devon, but Devon's a different place, but still England, so it doesn't count as a new country. And yeah, that was a very intense thing. 2004. Now this is where it gets hazy. This is where it gets hazy. Because there were a few places over the next few years. France came back into play, Spain came into play, and North Africa. I was in North Africa for a while, but there I struggle to remember the exact timelines. Women, oh, notably Heidi, very posh, very posh. God, you try and remember. But yeah, that's just a jumbled up couple of years there that I don't recall terribly well. What I can tell you is that I came back from Africa on a visit, and then that was when I met the artist formerly known as Mrs. Boaty, and so then I kind of settled down. Yeah, settled down a bit then, as you do, as you would. Here's Lickpenny. Oh, I'm going to go a different way to avoid the roadworks. So yeah, and then that was it really. Married Mags on my 36th birthday. No new countries in terms of living, although you know we visited, spent a lot of time in France actually. Well, kind of lived in France because spent a lot of time in Joe's gîte in rural Normandy. Hi Joe, if you're watching. So yeah, that was kind of that. and the entertainment agency, the promotions company, that all came to an end just before I got married, pretty much. So I was just settling down into, you know, husband, stepfather. We were, you know, living together long term before we got married. And I went back to the car showrooms. They made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And I became managing director back there. And yeah, that was that. There were lots of there was lots of travel still, but not like living in places. And obviously never been unfaithful in my life, so there were no other women. So roll forward to splitting up now. So when we're divorced, that's going to be coming up. Oh, I did this the other night, didn't I? So it's about 11 years ago, something like that. At the time I divorced, I was working for Sainsbury's. I was working. Oh, while I was married, I did work with the NHS. I worked in after the car showrooms thing ended. That's a story in and of itself. I worked for the NHS, worked in psych intensive care unit, and then went on to ambulance service. Actually working for my wife, who was lead of the PCT. But coming up to the divorce, we'd had a separation. I stopped working for the NHS when we separated because I went to live at the cottage in Wales. Spent 2 years there on my own. 2 years, 18 months, something like that. And I was working part-time for Sainsbury's when we got back together. Just, you know, get me out of the house really, keep active. Quite a manual job. And then when we divorced, I started working all the hours that God sent for Sainsbury's, because at that point then, needed the money, didn't I? So after the divorce, well, I still had a thing going with Maggie for a year and a half, something like that. Then there was Bernard, of course, darling Bernard, who you all know, she pops in on the live streams. And then there was Boo. Let's think about this. Just as I was getting together with Boo while we were courting, the Sainsbury's thing ended. The restaurant thing came along. Boo and I started our new life in Matlock, Bath. That ended. You know, Boo and I were together, what was it, 4 or 5 years, something like that. Engaged, again, firmly planned to get married. Gutted it didn't work out. That ended. I never gave up Windy Bum when we were living at the Cabbage Patch. So I found myself back in Windy Bum. That was in September, whenever it was. 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And then in the March of the next year, whenever it was, Chinese Madam moved in. Hui. So, and again, that's a story in and of itself. And we were together for a year, and then that ended. My fault, I ended that. Feel guilty about that to this day. Broke her heart. And then the year after that started YouTube, and that's it. We are up to date. Oh, and since Chinese Madam, no serious relationships. Some almost, some dalliances, but not actually living with kind of thing. So there you go. That brings us up to date. That is more than enough for this video, because by the time it all goes together, it's going to be quite a long one. So if you've watched this until the end, please add in the comments, I saw Bernard's bum cheeks. I would love to know which brave souls have made it all the way to the bitter end. So, be honest, if you've cheated and skipped to the end, it doesn't count. If you've watched every minute of this video, write in the comments, I saw Bernard's bum cheeks. And that always makes me laugh when we do this. And thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for your company. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching the videos. Thank you to my channel members. Thank you to everybody who's gifted a channel membership. Thank you for any super thanks. And thank you for leaving your knob alone when the adverts come on. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. In the meantime, all the love in the world from me, and I will see you tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye, darlings.
The YouTube channel's not any good, but he's a nice guy. I'm sorry, Mr. Boaty.
Oh. You had me at YouTube videos. Let's go, Boaty.
Boaty's such a great guy. Such a great guy. Very tall. Such a great guy. I wish Boaty was here in America with me right now.
You twat. Wanker.